You know that moment when your body is screaming at you to slow down, but your to do list says otherwise? That was me last week. I was on my period, I had zero energy, and my stress levels were taking over. I was about to have a full blown meltdown and call my fiance crying until I remembered the bottle of Wish Garden's amazing herbal tincture Emotional Ally in my purse. These aren't your average supplements, they're fast acting liquid herbal tinctures, fast acting, clean, and so effective. I'm talking full mind body reset in literal minutes. No weird additives, no fake sugars, just straight up plant power, formulated by actual herbalists who know their shit. Whether you're dealing with stress, hormones, sleep, or digestion, Wish Garden's got a blend for it. And it works. Discover the natural power of Wish Garden's legendary fast acting herbal tincture blends using code EveryGirl20 for 20% off your order. It's the number one selling in the US. Crafted for rapid absorption, Wish Garden's remedies provide potent benefits that you'll feel in minutes. With no fillers, gums, binders, or sugars, they harness the full strength of botanicals in their purest and most effective form. Simply add your formula to a few ounces of your favorite drink, whether that's water, juice, tea, or a mocktail. Own your health, drink your herbs. Go to wishgardenherbs.com and use code EveryGirl20 for 20% off your order.
Why does making friends as an adult feel so
What
hard?
should I wear on a first
What the
date?
hell is a formal?
But that
Why
hookup
is
was
buying my
not
first
good.
home so
What do I want my
frustrating?
life to look like in 5 years?
We want to know too.
Since 2012, the Every Girl has been an online destination to help women around the world achieve the life of their dreams. Now, we're excited to bring you the same inspiring content with the Every Girl podcast.
Welcome back to the Every Girl podcast. Today, I am joined by Erin Stokes, who is a naturopathic doctor and the medical director at Wish Garden Herbs. We have never had a naturopathic doctor on the podcast before, so I was really excited about this conversation. My goal is to help you live your very best life. You obviously need to feel as amazing as possible in your body in order to do that. And there are so many different methods and practices from all over the world that a lot of us may not have exposure to. So I want to use this podcast to bring you ideologies and practices that you may not otherwise be exposed to, but that just might be the missing piece to your health or that just might change your life. I love naturopathic medicine. I think it is fascinating. If you're unfamiliar, naturopathic medicine, some core pillars are that it treats the whole person. That means mind, body, and spirit. It also aims to heal the root cause of an illness, not just stop the symptoms. It traditionally uses natural remedies to help the body heal itself using things like herbs, massage or acupuncture, and lifestyle changes like exercise and nutrition. I think this is the most innate form of medicine. Obviously, I love conventional medicine, and there is absolutely a much needed time and place for it. We are so lucky to have the modern advancements that we've made in medicine, and it is 100% critical, life or death, to invest in research and science. I feel like that is important for me to make clear in 2025. But naturopathic medicine is what has been considered just straight up medicine for hundreds of thousands of years, healing our bodies through what nature can offer us. The difference to me is healthcare versus sick care. Like one is meant to treat you when you're sick, which is critical, and one is meant to help you be healthy. They are both equally important, and I don't think it should be one practice or the other. I think we should be using multiple forms of medicine and practices together to live our healthiest lives. I just wanted to give some background on naturopathic medicine as someone who grew up with only conventional medicine and was given an antibiotic or some other kind of prescription for every symptom. I use herbs and food as my first initial go-to medicine to help me feel my very best. So I know the power that comes with these practices. I also share in this episode how I incorporated both conventional and naturopathic medicine when dealing with panic attacks and anxiety. Erin is really cool. She's really relatable, down to earth, and she just gets it. She explains everything in a tangible and easy to understand way. Erin talks about how the biggest thing we misunderstand about our bodies is the effect that stress has on us physically. So, this episode is for my stressed out, burnt out, exhausted, overthinking girlies, which I'm going to guess is probably everyone listening to this in this day and age. Erin and I chat about how stress affects everything from hormones to weight. She talks about stress personalities and why it's important to know yours. We also get into sleep. She shares some great tips to have better quality sleep that are not the typical tips you hear, like mouth taping and avoiding screens. She gives tangible tips to lower your stress levels physiologically, everything from foods to mindset shifts to powerful herbs that can help ease stress immediately. If you are interested in the herbs Erin shares today, by the way, Wish Garden Herbs is offering Every Girl podcast listeners a discount. So you can use Every Girl 20 for 20% off your order. Erin was nice enough to send me some, and she was right. I really felt the immediate effects. I am hooked. So enjoy this fascinating deep dive into stress that will give you all the tangible tools to lower stress levels, both at the root cause long term and immediately, like by the end of the day. Welcome, Erin Stokes, to the Every Girl podcast. What do you think is most conventionally misunderstood about health and our bodies?
That's a great question. I think what is really conventionally misunderstood is the interplay between our nervous system and how that impacts so many different systems in our body. We almost run through our nervous system and how we're living our lives, and this impacts every single aspect from as women, our menstrual cycles, it affects cardiovascular health, it affects our sleep. So much of it starts with how we are sort of living our lives and honestly treating ourselves. And I know that in a way that sounds basic, but it's so powerful because from the endocrine system to the nervous system to the immune system, it's all connected.
I love that you brought up the nervous system because what I find very fascinating is how we live in this modern culture where we all are like, I'm stressed out, I'm burnt out, I'm stressed, everything feels stressful. And yet we don't really acknowledge how it plays a part in our physical health. I've given this story as an example before, but years ago, I was having really bad period symptoms. I was having breakthrough bleeding. This was way before I did any of my own health training, like way before I knew anything about health. And I just intuitively felt like this is also the most stressful time of my life I've ever felt. So I went to my gynecologist and I was like, is it possible that stress is causing the breakthrough bleeding and the issues that I'm having? She's like, no, stress can't really play a part in your hormones. After learning what I know now, I'm like, stress is like the main thing that plays into your hormones. So I just think that it is interesting that we live in this world where we're all acknowledging how stressed out we are and how sick most of us are. And yet we are not combining the two to see the link.
Yes, I agree. And I think in large part, it's because it feels overwhelming for people. And one of the most important things that I do as a naturopathic doctor is that I want to help make it less overwhelming and also more inspiring so that people feel like, okay, I get it. Stress is playing this huge role, but what do I do now? It's
Right.
hard to kind of like untangle it all. And so I think that we have this great opportunity on this podcast because the fact of the matter is, our stress response is designed to protect us, and it does. Every one of us can think of some time when we were in a stressful situation, we needed to act quickly, and we did. The stress response is actually not a bad thing. It's designed in our biology to protect us. What happens in modern times is that we have this stress cycle on repeat, and that leads to high cortisol levels day to day over time. I think you probably heard a lot about cortisol, and that's where the impacts happen. That's where the changes in your cycle can happen. That's where some of the weight issues can happen, the sleep, because it makes sense. Your body's almost kind of trying to protect you. And that elevated cortisol is telling all of your systems we're in an alarm phase. And what I want to help us do is get back into more of what's called that parasympathetic mode, because that's our rest and repair and our rest and digest. And there's so much that we can do in our day to day lives in terms of lifestyle, nutrition. There's just so much that can be done. And so that's what gets me really excited because there's this metamorphosis that we're all capable of when we have the inspiration and tools to change our lives.
Can you break down the mechanism? Like, explain it to me like I'm 4.
Absolutely.
Because I know that you were mentioning, it can affect your hormones, it affects weight. We all know that stress can have a toll on our mental health, but if it's totally new concept that stress can affect your physical health, especially in such drastic ways, can you explain how exactly it's affecting our physical health?
I'd love to. That's a great question. So, really, the stress response all begins in our brain. Perception is really reality. I want to be really clear. I'm not saying it's in your head. I could have a deadline, say for work, and it depends on how I'm perceiving it. And if I'm like, this is a threat, oh my gosh, I'm not prepared, I'm nervous, it sends this whole cascade. Initially, it's going to be more like adrenaline. And that's when, sometimes if you have like something big going on, you feel like a little sweaty or maybe a little jittery, or you can feel like, oh my gosh, my heart's kind of pounding. That's just your body going into that alarm phase. But what happens when it's more long term is your body can't really keep that up forever. And so what we do is we release cortisol. And cortisol is kind of like the messenger. It affects your glucose metabolism, it affects your fat storage. Your body is going into this stress mode. And so how does it impact your hormones? You're really saying to your body on a multiple levels, your GI tract, I don't have time or energy to digest. And so like blood will literally go away from your digestive tract and make it harder. That's why we say things like butterflies in our stomach, because it does impact your GI tract. It's trying to protect you. The hormonal piece is sometimes like women will experience where they may not have a cycle even, or they may not bleed because your body is going into this mode where there's not time or energy to really expend in the reproductive realm. And so that's how it starts to impact everything because it's trying to protect you. And that's what I want people to realize is like your body's honestly actually trying to protect you. It's just we can send different signals and different messages. And it's interesting that your doctor had said that because I think that there isn't an acknowledgement among a lot of doctors. My OBGYN doctor is like, stress impacts everything. And she says your hormones are exquisitely tuned and tapped into stress. I think it's just recognizing that and then going, okay, what can I do to take care of myself, to support myself, and also not be hard on ourselves because I don't want this to be one more thing where somebody's giving themselves a hard time. That's a big thing for me too, is not to be hard on yourself around it.
When I've worked with some clients on reducing stress levels, the response is so often like, "Oh my god, I was so stressed out today," and then the stress is making them more stressed because they put that pressure on themselves of like, "Oh, I shouldn't be stressed." So, I think we're so in the fight or flight constantly that even the idea of not being stressed is causing us to feel more stress. Like we have so much healing to do, whether it is from, we live in a very toxic productivity culture where we are very used to stress. We also live in a very stressful time in life. So I think there's so much healing that has to be done at the root cause. So I would love to get into your tips on what we can be doing. I'm sure that there's so many different angles from the emotional side of things to the herbs. I know that you're big on those. So if someone's like, okay, I have a lot of these physical symptoms, I'm also highly stressed out, so this might be the cause. What is the protocol?
Great questions. Where would you like to start? Lifestyle, nutrition, herbs? We can go anywhere you want.
Let's start with all of
Okay,
those.
let's do
Let's
it.
go lifestyle, nutrition, and then
Okay,
herbs.
let's do it. So, with lifestyle, just going back to the nervous system, one of the most important things to do is to speak kindly to yourself. And that might have surprised you. You might have thought I was going to say, exercise, get outside, do this.
Yeah.
All those things are true as well. But I was thinking about that this morning, and I'm going to just give a quick example. So, I have a lot happening right now. I love my work. I love what I'm doing. There's a lot happening. And I knew I was doing the podcast this morning, and I had this yogurt and some cashews and different things I was going to bring because one of the first things along lifestyle is speaking kindly to yourself and also having protein at every meal. Protein signals to your body safety because protein stabilizes your blood glucose. when you skip meals, like say you have a cup of coffee and you run out the door to work, to school, to life, to yoga, wherever, your blood sugar is going to really, and that's your blood glucose, same thing, will go really low. And then it sets off an alarm and can make you feel hangry. It can make you feel jittery. So I'm doing my good thing, getting my protein. I'm driving here and I realize I left it all at home.
No, not the yogurt.
I
Damn
know,
it.
and a really good yogurt too. It's like
I
Icelandic steer
know.
yogurt that I love, and I left it all at home. So I mention that because I started to be like, I can't believe I did that. And that's not very nice talking to myself. So a kinder thought was, it's okay. I'm doing the best I can. I'm still going to get that protein because I know how important it is. And I know this little cafe on the way to work, I can get one of those little egg bites, the ones that you can make like in a little muffin container.
Yes, those are so good. You could add veggies or feta cheese or something. Those are so good.
Aren't they? And they're so easy. And so I stopped at this little cafe. And yes, was I later for work than I wanted to be? Yes, but I didn't have a meeting. And I was just kind to myself. And I said, it's okay. You got this. You're communicating to yourself, I got you. Because the most important relationship that you're ever going to have in life is the relationship with yourself. And so if we can start doing all the things like protein at every meal, which is literally, I think, one of the best tips that people say has made a difference in their lives. You don't need to add one more biological stressor to an already stressful life by not having enough protein to stabilize your blood glucose, which can also impact sleep. So if you don't have protein dinner, then your blood glucose can dip in the middle of the night. And that's sometimes why people wake up in the middle of the night. It's like a little signal like, hey, your body will always do what it needs to do to keep you going. We just need to support ourselves. So speak kindly to yourself, eat protein at each meal. That's lifestyle nutrition. And then support yourself with herbs and other supplements that are going to make your life, make your day better. There's a whole category of herbs called nervines. Those are supportive for the nervous system. That's really different, but very complementary to adaptogens. So a lot of people know about adaptogen herbs, and really simple adaptogens help your body adapt to stress. Nervines concurrently can soothe your nervous system.
Okay, I've never heard of nervines. I would also love to ask you more about adaptogens because we've never talked about that on this podcast, but I've never heard of nervines. You can buy them in a supplement like adaptogens.
Absolutely. You can. I have a couple of tinctures right here. Can I show one?
Yes,
Okay.
please. Yes.
So this one's called Emotional Ally. This is a Wish Garden Herbs tincture, and it says a big herbal hug. And Emotional Ally is a really good tincture to support people when that stress is really manifesting in the emotional realm. You may be going through sadness, feeling overwhelmed. I love this formula for transitions. So that transition could be a breakup. It could be moving to a new town, or it could just be moving to a new apartment. It could be starting a new job. Transitions can sometimes be like the best thing that's ever happened to you in the beginning of a new era in your life. They can also be, I don't say they can be, they are stressful because it's new. You're in a new world, whether
Right.
you're out of a relationship, in a new relationship, in a new town, in a new job. Life has changed and we're like growing and evolving. At the same time, it puts stress and strain on your nervous system. So nervines are going to be herbs like skullcap, or one of my favorite herbs in the world, motherwort, which is also known as the lion-hearted herb. Gives you that lion-hearted courage. It's really a women's ally. It's a women's ally herb. And these are both in here, and they're really grounding and centering herbs. So they soothe your nervous system in the moment. And sometimes people don't realize, oh, I can use herbs in the moment. I thought that herbs were more like an adaptogen, which really helps your body adapt to stress over time. And those are super cool herbs because they're like resilience builders. They really strengthen you over time, like ashwagandha, or one of my favorite allies, holy basil. This is a holy plant in India, planted around temples because it's so widely revered. So the herbs are just have this amazing way, they're body friendly. This is a really traditional way of extracting the plant, and so you get the best of the plant. For something like emotional ally, you want it in the moment. It's meant to work in the moment, and I have it in my bag because life happens, and I actually carry it in my work bag. Of course, like, if you're taking medications or you have other conditions, always talk with your practitioner and understanding, like, these are body-friendly herbs that we've adapted and evolved with herbs and plants. It's plant medicine. We've been using plants as humans for thousands of years, whether that's Native Americans on this continent, Ayurvedic medicine in India, Chinese medicine in China. There's an unbelievable herbal tradition in Europe where they've been using herbs like lemon balm and linden and all of these herbs for centuries.
Yeah, there's so much wisdom from history, from other cultures, and being in the wellness space in the US, I unfortunately, as I'm sure you do too, run into a lot of people who feel like herbs and plants are like witch doctor stuff where they like don't really work. And it drives me nuts because not only are there so many impressive research, like conventional research behind things like holy basil and ashwagandha, but also I always am like, who cares? Like there's decades and decades and decades of these cultures that have used these for centuries. I
Mm.
actually just came back from Africa and
Wow.
my poor audience, they're like, we have heard about Africa so many times,
Well,
get over it. But I'm gonna
Africa,
bring it up
it's
again.
amazing. That's incredible.
But one of the coolest things for me was learning about the herbs.
Yes.
Our guide pointed out there was one plant that I totally forget what it is. It's been used for thousands of years, but it's still very much used for postpartum depression.
Really?
And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Is it something that, women will take preventatively? And he was like, no, if they start feeling depression,
Mhm.
they will take it for 1 week and their depression will be cured in the week. And in our country, unfortunately, I think we have such a I don't know if stigma is the right word or ignorance toward these thousands of years where plants have been a healing mechanism. And I love that in naturopathic medicine that you're bringing that to people like me and other people in our country that have not had access to that before.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, it's all so real. How do I counter some of that skepticism? I actually come from a medical family. And so,
Oh, really?
yes, I come from like generations actually of medicine. My grandfather was an orthopedic surgeon. My dad's a retired orthopedic surgeon. My brother is an anesthesiologist. And so I took
Wow.
the road less traveled, becoming a naturopathic doctor. And plant medicine is just something that, to your point, that has existed in traditional cultures forever. And so what I say is that these are traditional plant remedies that are being validated by modern science. Like turmeric, for example, there's over 600 published studies on PubMed around curcumin, which is an active constituent of turmeric. And so we really are validating the modern use with what was already established. And that's what I find so fascinating, because if we just take a moment to think about that without the tools of modern science, but I think with a much closer relationship with nature, that these cultures understood. And some of it, I'm sure, was through trial and error and learning and trying and just being with the plants of what these plants can do. At the end of the day, you're not necessarily going to change somebody else's mind, but a way that I invite people to look at things differently is that most people will really accept plant power from the perspective of nutrition. And as a
Mhm.
naturopathic doctor, I'm highly trained in nutrition. So most people will accept that, that an orange is high in vitamin C and that vitamin C has real impacts in the body as an antioxidant. So we understand blueberries have anthocyanins and oranges have vitamin C. They're plants. We know that fruits and vegetables should be a cornerstone of any diet, whether you're vegetarian, paleo, whatever you do, we all know fruits and vegetables should be our cornerstone. So the herbs are plants too.
And food is medicine. Can you explain a little bit of like the mechanism? Again, for people who struggle with like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm feeling stressed. I don't understand how having plants can help me. Can you explain how something like holy basil or ashwagandha actually work
Yes,
in the body to ease stress?
absolutely. The plants have their own unique chemistry, kind of analogous to how we were talking about the constituents of fruits or vegetables. The plants are going to have their own compounds. So, for example, there is a compound in ashwagandha, it's called a withanolide. And chemistry isn't like a chemical, it's just what are the components of the plant. And so every plant will have its different constituents. And then those constituents will have actions in the body. And I'll use an example. So, there are studies on ashwagandha, for example, that have shown both subjective and objective changes in stress. And subjective would be like there's these really well established questionnaires that are actually standardized about where you just, it's like self reported symptoms of stress. And then there's objective measurements where it's showing that it helps with balancing cortisol levels. Cortisol is actually a culprit for a lot of these issues, like some of the sleep issues. Interestingly enough, ashwagandha, that botanical medicine name is Withenia somnifera. And the somnifera is a nod to the word somnolence, which is about sleep. And so one of the uses of ashwagandha is again over time, really supporting healthy sleep cycles. Some herbs might work on supporting GABA. And you may have heard of GABA, which GABA is just this neurotransmitter in the body that's involved in calming. There's something called GABAergic. And GABAergic means it appears that this plant is actually supporting GABA in the body. So it's a real biological impact, I guess, is what I want to emphasize. Is that these are having real effects. I did a presentation last week and I was actually showing the chemical constituents of this plant and talking about how it works. There's science that we know about each and every one of these plants. We can pull up studies on passion flower, skullcap, motherwort, all those nervines. We can pull up studies on ashwagandha, holy basil. And I also always want to give a nod to there's a lot that we don't know. So there's much that we
Mm.
know and there's much that we don't know. And that's why I'm a proponent on the whole plant. So when we use like a holy basil, there's a lot that we know about holy basil, even that it appears to help with healthy inflammation, which is really interesting, but stress and inflammation are really tied. So it makes sense. But when we use the whole plant, we're honoring that we're still learning. There's a lot that we don't know because they're complex. It's not like we can't figure it out. It's because these are complex plants, just like we are complex beings. We don't know every single thing. We're still learning. That's why I like to use the whole plant.
Mm.
I'm not going to just use curcumin. I'm going to use turmeric, which is the whole plant. I want, and all of the tinctures that we do, we use the whole plant or the whole part of the plant. Sometimes it will be the leaves, other times it will be the root. So we know because we're a team of herbalists, naturopathic doctor, we know what we're using and using the whole part.
That's so interesting because there's so much more to the complexity of the plants that we don't even know yet, which is exciting. My personal philosophy, I'm not saying this is right for everybody, but for me, I intuitively feel like the most close to nature I can get is the best thing for me. So I am someone who will more likely first look to things like plant medicines before I go the kind of conventional medicine route that just like intuitively what feels like the right thing for me. But to give some context to like how I have used these herbals, because I think that might be helpful
Yes.
for listeners who don't know. So this time I was actually talking about when I went to my gynecologist. I'm like, I'm having all these funky symptoms. I was going through probably the most stressful time of my life. To your point about transitions, it was like right around that time where I left college, I moved, I started my first full-time adult job. Like it was just a stressful transition that somehow sparked my panic attack disorder and anxiety disorder. And so it was just like a very high anxiety time for me. I looked at it like I have all these different tools in my stress toolbox. I have therapy that I go to every week. That's super helpful from one angle. Then with my therapist, I decided it was the right decision for the moment to go on an SSRI. I looked at that like it was almost like a Band-Aid
Mhm.
of I'm suffering day to day. I need something now. And then I took adaptogens. I took a lot of
Mhm.
ashwagandha, things like that as more of like the root cause healing. Like I was working from a functional level to heal my stress levels, my body, whatever was going through, and use the SSRI as like, I just need relief right now. But all of these other things are helping me in the moment, but also will help me long term to support my body and heal from what I'm dealing with. Everyone should obviously have their own stress relief toolbox that they come up with their doctor or therapist. But that's the way that I looked at it is all of these pieces, meditation, therapy, these herbs, like these are all pieces of your mental health toolbox.
Josie, that's such a beautiful story. And thanks for just being brave. It sounds like you've shared this with your listeners in the past and for sharing it today because your story is inspirational for other people. And also just embracing the fact that you utilized a true integrative approach and you were willing to go with what works along with your healthcare professionals and realizing you were kind to yourself, full circle to what we were talking about at the beginning of not
Yeah.
just speaking kindly to yourself, but just being kind, meaning this is what I need in the moment. Those are such huge transitions. Everything that you just said. You would finish college, you were starting a new job. Were you in a new city as well?
Uh-huh. I was moving, I was trying to figure out my life. I think everyone when you're like 22,
Mhm.
it's stressful because you're trying to figure out like what the fuck am I doing? And no one knows.
I was just talking about this because I was listening to a podcast that was talking about this time in your 20s is being one of the most stressful and transformative times in the whole arc of your life. And that it's
Mm.
really important to respect and honor that because I think that a kind of mistake that some others could make of is like, the world is your oyster. You're young. These like phrases like you can do whatever you want. You're so fortunate. And that's actually okay. Yeah, that might be right. But also, you at that time, we are all kind of like flung out into the world. And a lot of times you may have just been going with your cohort, whether that's in college or your people, your tribe. And then the tribe often will kind of split because somebody may be in a relationship and move somewhere or in a job. I think there just needs to be more honoring of what the 20s represent. I think it's really powerful opportunity of transformation, but also so challenging. And I think that as a culture, one of the mistakes we make, and probably mainly from like older people saying, like, you can do anything, maybe even like parents or well meaning aunts, uncles, friends, older colleagues at work. You're so lucky. Yeah. And it's a lot of figuring out. And I think we just need to recognize that.
That's such a good way to say it because it's so true. Like this mentality that my generation definitely got a lot in a good way because my parents' generation, they were not being told the world is your oyster. They were being told you get a job to make money and you have a family and you have to support your family. Like that was it. So it's a great thing that we were told find your passion, the world is your oyster, but then there's all this pressure of like, wait, everybody else seems to be having a lot more success than I am. What's wrong with me? It is interesting because we talk about, or at least I've heard this, your 20s are the best time of your life.
Mhm.
So then you're going through your 20s being like, I'm floundering. I have no idea what I'm doing. Everybody's having more fun than me. I feel like I have no friends. I have no money. If my 20s are supposed to be so amazing, what is wrong with me? And so it's interesting because we all are going through that. So going back to the conversation on stress relief, this is a topic that may not be as sexy as, weight loss or
Mhm.
gut health, like some of these other topics that people like to talk about, but especially for our demographic, for the women that are listening to this, which a lot of them are in their 20s and 30s. Now is the time that we have to be so focused on setting our bodies up for success and focusing on our stress relief and how we can allow our bodies to be in that rest and digest mode and to set ourselves up for success so we can enjoy our lives. Now is the time that we have to be setting ourselves up to have the rest of our life be as happy as possible. Like, we don't want to spend our lives stressed out.
Absolutely. I agree with everything you're saying. It's like for the long term and it's also for now because when you do find that place where you're feeling more centered and we're always going to have stress, but that you're managing it or you're feeling like you're more resilient through it, it will increase your vibrancy, your vitality, your energy, your digestion now. It's like a short term play and a long term play because you want to feel better as much as you can today and all the days to come so that you can be your most vibrant self. And for example, we haven't talked much about it yet, but the interplay between stress and sleep. And we know that like
Yeah.
having sleep is the best thing ever. It's like you look better, you feel better, like it's the thing. If you were going to really work on one aspect of your life, I would say sleep is like it's everything. But then to just give yourself some grace, because I think that the other thing that happens is we all put ourselves like a lot of pressure on ourselves to sleep.
And a lot of us are not getting sleep at all, especially like in your 20s, it was like, oh, you're up all night studying or partying. And then you're like, okay, now I'm up all night with kids. Like, there are so many reasons that, especially women our age, are not getting sleep. So I would love to
Mhm.
talk more about sleep because I don't know if you've heard of sleep maxing, which is this trend where people are like, I'm doing the mouth tape, I'm taking supplements, I'm
Mhm.
doing like the hot cold bath, I'm doing like
Mhm.
the meditation. Like, it's doing the most. And I think it's overwhelming.
Mhm.
So what are some things that we may not know for people to actually get a good night's sleep?
I love this question. So I love the part too that we may not know because I'm not going to lean into sleep hygiene or even like the sort of end of day sleep maxing stuff. Like we know we're supposed to like get off these and we don't, and it's like all the things. Okay. So
Yeah, we know
we,
no
we know,
screens, we
yeah,
get
yeah,
it. Yeah.
we've been there, done that. Your journey to your best night's sleep begins from the moment you wake up. So how you're living your whole day, you can think like, "I'm setting myself up for a great night's sleep." And it's not to put more pressure like, "Oh my gosh, now I've got the whole day. I'm kinda like, blah." But this is remembering that there's all these things that you can do that are in your power that are going to help you sleep. So you can say to yourself, "I'm getting out in the morning." It can be 5 minutes sitting in the sun as the weather's getting better, or it can be a 10-minute walk around the block. It can be so short, but I'm getting in the light in the morning because that's gonna help my circadian rhythm, and that's gonna give me better energy during the day. There are studies that show that 5 minutes outside on a short walk can boost your mood, and it's tangible. So if you think like, "I don't have time," you can take 5 minutes and go outside. You're actually telling your body, it's daytime. I'm setting my circadian rhythm. That's gonna bring your melatonin down because you want your melatonin up at night and down in the day, and it's just gonna help with your energy. So just get outside, get some fresh air. It's good for your mood. It's good for your sleep. I am actually one of those people when I land in a new place or, I'm traveling, I need to get outside or I won't sleep tonight. I need to go outside and I need to go on a walk before we go out to dinner because it's gonna help me sleep. I'm like one of those people that's like walking around like the parking lot at the hotel because it will help you sleep better at night. So that's one thing. Your journey to a good night's sleep, it's starting right now. And we talked about protein earlier. You want to just get protein at every meal. You want to make sure that you're having protein at dinner because otherwise your body is going to go low blood sugar in the middle of the night and it's going to spike your cortisol. That's the other part of why you want to eat protein is like you're actually going to spike your low glucose spikes cortisol. And that's you're like, that's the last thing I need. I'm already spiking my cortisol because I'm so stressed out. So eat early enough with protein. Try not to eat too late. And then there's some sneaky things in terms of what we're drinking. We know about caffeine, and I know, I mean, I love my matcha, but try to cut off the caffeine because it can be a sneaky one. Cut it off by 2 ideally. I used to say noon, but that was just too unreasonable. A real true sneaky one is alcohol. And I'm not saying
Mm.
don't drink. I'm saying do what's best for you. That maybe not drinking, drinking less, but just have an awareness that alcohol impacts your sleep. It does. It's a fact. It will usually help you think, "Oh, I'm so relaxed. I had this glass of wine. I fell asleep so easily." No, alcohol doesn't affect my sleep. Actually, if I have a glass of wine, I fall asleep more easily. Yes, that may be true for you, but what is undoubtedly also true is you don't get into those deeper levels of REM sleep when you drink alcohol. And so all I'm saying is just have an awareness of that. Like alcohol has been shown clearly to have an impact on sleep. And that's a sneaky one. And it's one that people don't talk about as much. I know there is a trend more towards mocktails and people either like drinking less or not drinking. And one thing I just wanted to share is there's this really amazing herbal blend called Liquid Bliss. And I wanted to bring this up for a couple of reasons. Liquid bliss is really good for the stress personality of the person that's feeling like more disconnected. And that doesn't mean you have to be totally disconnected to take liquid bliss. It has heart-centered herbs like hawthorn that's really good for your heart. It has damiana, which a lot of people, your listeners may know, it's like a very good, like feel good. It's considered kind of like the love herb. It is great for if you're going to a social gathering and maybe you're choosing not to drink, just put it in your little bag and you can just put it in your mocktail or you can have it during the day. It doesn't make you sleepy. But it's another nice option for people. It just gives you that kind of like sort of heart-centered connection. This is such a neat formula. And we've had so many people say that this has really been helpful for them just when they're kind of feeling that we've all kind of had that, like where you just feel like, I just feel a little like disconnected and like grumpy and I'm just like, I know that actually would be good for me to get out, but I don't kind of want to maybe.
I need to try that. I'm gonna dump that in my fiance's, like, I'm gonna, like, drug him with it and, like, dump it in his coffee or something. That sounds amazing. Like, what a good idea to use herbs to elevate your mood.
Absolutely. And I will absolutely send you and all of this, Liquid Bliss, Emotional Ally, the formulations as a naturopathic doctor, been practicing for over 20 years. And I look at these blends, and that's the thing about the herbs is they're really incredible individually, but they're also a team. And
Yeah, they work
they work
together.
together synergistically. And these teams, it's like the dream team. They're so elegantly crafted. And so that's something that I love. And our stress collection is so unique.
I would love to try, and maybe I'll, like, film a review or something for our audience,
That'd be
because
great.
just, like, what it feels like to, like, take it out to a restaurant and replace my normal glass of wine.
Yeah.
In this episode, you hear Erin talk about using herbs as medicine and why herbal tinctures are such a critical part of her health routine. Being the wellness guinea pig that I am, I wanted to try too. So I got some tinctures from Erin's favorite brand, Wish Garden Herbs, and I am obsessed. Let me tell you my recommendations. I love Liquid Bliss. I've been making a mocktail with sparkling water and adding Liquid Bliss, which contains herbs that support your body's feel good hormones, helping to lift your mood and increase your sense of connection. So, I have been loving this as an alternative to alcohol or to boost my mood when I'm with friends or connecting with my fiance. I also been taking the Emotional Ally on a regular basis for help with my mood. Where was this tincture when COVID happened? I really could have used this to help with my stress levels. It is meant to support your body if you're going through a time of sadness or stress or with mood support on a daily basis. Those are my two favorites, but there are so many herbal tincture options for whatever your goals. I am blown away by these products. Erin was so right. Discover the natural power of Wish Garden's legendary fast acting herbal blends using code EveryGirl20 for 20% off your order. Crafted for rapid absorption, Wish Garden's remedies provide potent benefits that you'll feel in minutes. With no fillers, gums, binders, or sugars, they harness the full strength of botanicals in their purest and most effective form. It is #1 selling in the US, and I can see why. Simply add your formula to a few ounces of your favorite drink, whether that's water, juice, tea, or mocktail. Own your health, drink your herbs. Go to wishgardenherbs.com and use code EveryGirl20 for 20% off your order. The stress personalities.
Yeah.
Can you talk about this? I know that this is something that you've shared before.
Mhm.
I've never heard of this concept. I would love to hear what the stress personalities mean.
Absolutely. So there's this universal stress response that we talked about. Remember, we talked about the adrenaline and the cortisol. And so we're talking about this as this like universal thing. And that's true. But how you manifest stress and how I manifest stress is going to be unique. There's some people that really manifest stress on a physical level. They may say, they're just like powering through and they may be like, I'm good. But like, whoa, the tension in their neck, in
Mm,
their shoulders, they get home from their day and they're just like, they can't unwind. They are placing, if you will, that stress in this sort of physical muscle tension realm. So it kind of say there's like physical personality of like this tense. There's other people that just it's the mental, like the stress kind of gets the best of them in more of like a mental loop. And that would be kind of more the emotional ally remedy, whereas the physical realm would actually want musculoskeletal nervines to help relax that physical tension so that you can feel more relaxed in your body. So we talk about like more the physical tense personality than the person who's like more in their mental. And again, sometimes people seem like totally fine on the surface, but then like they're just really struggling with this mental worry and overwhelm. Earlier, I was talking to somebody about this and they're like, I think I'm all of these personality. Like, oh, which one?
I was going to ask
Yeah.
that. I was like, what if you're all the
What if I'm
above?
more than one? And that's like totally fine. A lot of times the one's gonna manifest more. Like we may have a friend like this or a family member that just when they get really stressed out, they get pretty bristly. That's the more like the disconnected. It's almost like as a protective mechanism, me time. And, I'm all about joy of missing out. But I'm talking about the person that really was like, and you're just like, gosh,
Yeah.
they only want to talk to me and I'm their friend, or whatever. That's the disconnected more personality. Then there's kind of like the emotional, where somebody is on like an emotional roller coaster. Again, we should feel our feelings because I want to like normalize all this too. We should feel our feelings, but I'm talking about the person that's feeling like, oh my gosh, I am just, my moods are like, it's just a little too much. So these are just different personalities. And why do we even talk about it? Because herbal allies can help meet you. Like we have a tincture serious relaxer. It's really unique. It has musculoskeletal herbs in it that are different than like the liquid bliss herbs. For me, recently, I was telling someone, yeah, I'm not really like the physical tension stress person. And then I had all these presentations, all this work, and I developed the most insane like jaw tension
Oh,
and pain,
no.
like within the week, right after declaring to my coworkers that I'm not that person. I'm like, I literally said, okay, the joke is on
Joke's on
me
you.
because what the heck? And so I, for a while, was taking extra magnesium, serious relaxer. I don't take serious relaxer that often, but like it was just perfect for me. That was my stress personality for a while. So that's what I mean of just maybe like you're saying, your time of transitions, your stress personality is just like, it's like so much. And that's more like emotional ally. So if that makes sense, it's like the team of herbs, either the individual herbs or the team can help you with where you're at. You know how you can do like those personality tests and you can be like, oh, I'm an ENFJ, but maybe like, it can
No, you
shift.
totally can
You can
change.
change.
Yeah,
And so that's the
totally.
same way with this. It's just like that.
That makes so much sense that stress manifests differently physiologically. Like the stress mechanism looks different for each of us and also in different times. That's also really, really helpful. Like, obviously, to know here's how I support my body, whether it's, you have your mental health toolbox that includes herbs and, the right herbs for your personality and for your stress mechanism, how it's manifesting. But also, I know that you don't do relationship therapy, but I'm like, you should take this on the road and do something with
Yeah.
couples because it is really helpful to know. Like, my stress personality, like if I'm stressed about something, I need to talk about it right away.
Right?
Like if a little thing happens at work, I'm calling my mom and I'm saying, I need to talk about it. And my fiance is a very much like, nothing's going wrong, everything's fine, and if things get too piled on, he turns, like, inward. So it took me a long time in our relationship to be like, "What's happening that you don't wanna talk to me about every little thing?" I have to, like, prod you to get out your stress, and it's really helpful to know your own mechanism as well as understanding the people around you because a lot of us spend our lives feeling hurt that other people do things when in reality that's just their stress response. So if we can understand that, it not only helps us understand our stress, but it helps us in all of our relationships and our partner and our friends and our family. So I think knowing that we all experience stress in a different physiological way is helpful on so many levels.
100% agree. You just said that so perfectly because it's all about understanding ourselves, but then understanding the people that we care about. Like I know I'm an extrovert, but if I'm working with an introvert, this is a little more basic but important. Sometimes I need to create space for that person to like express their opinion or tell me what they think. I need to pause. I need to ask them what they think because they're not going to like volunteer it the same way that I do. And so it's just those ways of the people that we care about, starting with ourselves, and then from there radiating out into the world, the more that we can understand and appreciate this is who they are, this is their style. And then how can I support them? Because it is a good feeling to feel like more heart centered and to feel like maybe you can share something that's bothering you. So it's just that way of like supporting yourselves and then realizing how we can support the people around us.
Yeah, it could only make your own mental health journey, physical health journey, and your relationships better. For our newbies out there who have never tried adaptogens, anything, I know there's different things that are better for different people. If that feels overwhelming, what would you recommend starting with?
I would start with this deep stress, which we haven't even talked about yet.
Ooh, deep stress. It
Deep
sounds good.
stress is a really good one. And the reason why, Josie, is that it has the combination of nervines that we talked about to in the moment to help support nervous system calm and adaptogens. It has ashwagandha, it has holy basil, it has this really interesting addition, thyme. And one of the stories I like to share is that thyme was used traditionally for like warriors, kind of like in Ireland, Scotland area to inspire courage. And I always think about
Whoa.
time is inspiring courage. And I even will do that from a culinary perspective. I'll just quietly be like, we need a little courage. And I'll put in like a soup or something. But this formula is really good in terms of adaptogens and nervines. And
I love that.
and it has time in it, which is a very unique inclusion. You can take it for a couple months, 2 to 3 months, see how it's working for you in building your stress resilience. So, yes, if the stress personality feels kind of exciting but a little overwhelming, or if someone literally just said, "Right now, I've got a lot going on and I think maybe I'm all of the above," this is the place to start.
And is that true for all adaptogens and all nervines? Is that you can take them both on a case by case basis, like I need this today, and over time?
Great
Or is it
question.
different?
It's different. So, deep stress, you would want to take on a daily basis. Nervines are more in the moment, but you could take them on a regular basis if you're like, it's just stressful right now. I need to take emotional ally, for example, for on a daily basis. So nervines are more in the moment. Adaptogens are more over time. You wouldn't just be like, I took ashwagandha. Why am I not feeling better? Or I took ashwagandha for 3 days or 1 week. That's not really enough time. Think of like adaptogens as almost like the root. A lot of them are roots, but just think of like visually as the root of the tree of like the strength, the stability. But like
Mm.
roots don't develop as quickly as like a leaf pops out. The root is really got to develop over time. And then the nervines are supporting you in the moment while you're building up that strength.
My therapist, again, years ago, explained ashwagandha to me like that, where it's increasing your baseline for stress.
It
So
is.
it's something that over time, it builds the foundation so that being busy doesn't have to feel super stressful, so that these like little things that come up, you can handle them better. It doesn't quite
Mhm.
raise your stress levels as much. So adaptogens are about building that foundation over time, whereas the nervines, those are like the I have a fear of flying and I'm going on a airplane,
Right?
or I have a scary presentation coming up that I need like the
Yes.
right away help with, or like my boyfriend's pissing me off. Let me take some Nervines. Like
Right. Yeah.
it's for those kind of
It's
things.
for those
Okay.
kind of moments, like, maybe I just yeah, my boyfriend's pissing me off or, like, I just got in a fight with my boyfriend, and he really hurt my feelings because it can be, like, grief, sadness, overwhelm, you're just like, oh my gosh, I feel really vulnerable right now. And again, I just want to say, because I know that sometimes people take medication also for fear of flying. So please don't like mix those unless you've talked to
Don't
your
mix.
the healthcare practitioner, but you're not going to want to mix those. I just want to be really clear about that. For something big like fear of flying and you already got your system and you're taking something, not to mix those.
Having the toolkit from many different
Yeah.
angles, like with me and my therapist and my doctor, we decided this was the plan that was best for me.
Yes.
Everybody's gonna have to do that as well. So that's an amazing point and good to know not to mix things
Yeah.
unless you talk to your
Yeah.
doctor.
You need to talk to your doctor and you wouldn't want to mix something that you're taking for flying with like emotionality. It's just setting yourself up for success. Let's set ourselves up for
Mhm.
success.
Okay, Erin, we are gonna wrap up with some
Okay.
rapid fire questions.
Great.
Your go-to coffee order.
Matcha latte. I love my matcha, and I get
Love
it with
matcha.
coconut milk often, but sometimes I'll do whole milk, so I mix it up. I like to mix up my milks, but I am a matcha girl. Like, I think matcha is extraordinary.
Do you do hot or iced?
I do hot. I do extra hot, actually, and
Ooh,
then
extra
I'm an
hot.
extra hot, and then in the summer, though, I will do, like there's these fun strawberry matcha iced drinks. I will do those in the summer.
Yum. I feel like that was a viral TikTok thing with strawberry matcha, or
Mhm.
there was like some drink, yeah, that was like a fruity with matcha.
So
I've
good.
never tried it, but it sounds so good.
Yes, there's a local coffee
Yum.
shop and they use like a good strawberry puree and it's super yummy, so it's good.
Ooh, I love that. Fill in the blank. If everyone had this one habit, it would change their life.
I was going to say talking kindly to yourself, but we already covered that, so in that same realm is mindset. Mindset shift is everything. Starting with your mindset every morning, like, "Where's my head at? Where's my mindset?" Because your mindset is the lens through which you see the world, and we can change our lives when we change our mindset.
I couldn't agree with that more. Best piece of advice you've ever received.
Look for opportunities to tell the truth.
Ooh, wait, I love that. Never heard that on the podcast before. That's amazing.
And that
Great advice.
and that includes telling the truth, and that means, like, telling your truth. So
Yeah,
look for
showing your
opportunities
your
through
insides, as I always
yes.
say. Yeah.
So and then what is the truth? And I think that sometimes we don't do that, and I have to say as women, sometimes we have, like, through culture that's been trained not to really tell the truth. So it's like, find those opportunities to tell the truth.
You're so right, especially as women. We have been programmed to, like, sacrifice ourselves, like, abandon ourselves in order to make people comfortable, and we do that so much on a small basis, we don't even realize we're doing it. So, that's so important to look for places to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Last question for you, a book that changed your life.
You are a badass.
Ooh, I love that book.
Me too, Jen Sincero. You are a badass. How to stop doubting your greatness and what is it? Start living an awesome life. It is over 10 years old. I've met Jen in person. She came out to Boulder and like I met her to talk. That book is awesome. I have it on my phone. Like sometimes if I'm even traveling, I just read a chapter. It's one of those books. It has changed my life and like I still read it. I just turn to like a random chapter and read it. So it's a good one.
It is such a good one for that, like, let me turn to a random page and get a little bit of inspiration, like a book that you can revisit over and over. I totally agree. We actually have never gotten that recommendation on the podcast, and it's so good.
It's so good, and the thing is like, you are. We all are. It's the truth. We all have this, like, badass inside of us. I mean, she's there. He's there.
Yeah,
They're there. It's this way of, like, "Okay, let's keep discovering it and remembering it."
we are badasses.
We
It's
are.
so
We
true.
totally
It's so
are.
true.
I mean, we got this. Seriously, we do. It's just reminding ourselves, supporting each other, and being that person out in the world.
Period. Erin, where can everybody find you and shop Wish Garden?
So you can check out wishgardenherbs.com. We actually have such a good blog, just really good education. So besides like, searching and finding some of the tinctures that we talked about today and some of the single herbs too and the combinations, you also learn a lot. We're also on Instagram. You can check out Wish Garden Herbs on Instagram. I'm on Instagram, Erin Stokes ND. And I think that's all the things. So
Are you taking patients if people wanna work with you?
I'm not currently, although stay tuned because I may be starting to do like telehealth sessions. I used to have a practice for many years and people have been asking more and more. So not currently, but maybe in the future.
I love a little tease.
Yeah.
I love a look out for what's coming in the future. Erin, thank you so much. I so enjoyed this conversation with you. It was so enlightening. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. I hope I can come back again. It was just so fun to talk with you, Josie. You're an amazing host. I mean, you're
God.
doing your thing because you're just born to be a podcast host in many ways. I'd love it.
Oh my God, that is the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me. Thank you so
It's
much. You're the
true.
best. And we'll definitely have to do a part 2.
Okay, let's do it.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know I sure did. Please do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It really makes a huge difference for our show so we can keep growing and bringing the content that you love. If you want more info, you can find us at the Every Girl Podcast on Instagram or theeverygirlpodcast.com. Talk to you next week.